Download this code and get free GPT-4o from codegive.com, link in the description below. Certainly. In Java, especially when working with GUI applications using Swing or AWT, you may encounter situations where the repaint method does not seem to update the visual representation of a component as expected. This can be due to various factors, such as not properly overriding the paint component method or not managing the component's state correctly. Understanding repaint. The repaint method is called on a component to indicate that it should be redrawn. When you call repaint, it schedules a call to the paint component, graphics G, method on that component at a later time. This is useful for updating the GUI when the state of the application changes. Common issues with repaint. 1. Not overriding paint component. If you're using a custom component, you need to override the paint component, graphics G, method. If you don't, the default painting will occur, but it won't reflect your custom drawings. 2. Not calling super.paintComponent, G. If you override paint component, always call super.paintComponent, G, at the beginning of the method to ensure that the component is properly rendered before adding your custom drawings. 3. State management. Ensure that the state of your component is updated before calling repaint. For instance, if you're changing a variable that affects the drawing, make sure it's updated before you request a repaint. 4. Threading issues. GUI updates should be done on the event dispatch thread, EDT. If you're updating the GUI from a background thread, you should use swing utilities.invoke later, to ensure that the update is performed on the EDT. Example code. Let's create a simple example that demonstrates how to correctly use repaint in a custom swing component. Explanation of the code. 1. Custom JPanel. The repaint example class extends JPanel and contains variables that define the circle's position and size. 2. Timer. We use a javax.swing.timer to update the position of the circle every 500 milliseconds. When the position changes, we call repaint to request a redraw of the panel. 3. Override paint component. We override paint component, graphics G, to perform the custom drawing. We first call super.paintComponent, G, to ensure that the panel is properly rendered before drawing our circle. 4. Main method. The main method sets up the JFrame and adds our custom panel to it. Conclusion. In this example, we demonstrated how to properly use repaint in a custom swing component. Remember to always override paint component, call super.paintComponent, G, and manage your component's state correctly to ensure that your GUI updates as expected. If you follow these practices, you should be able to avoid common pitfalls associated with repaint.